I was in the freezing cold in the middle of England without the correct clothing and going to training, just freezing my absolute arse off. So, very interesting little, very different to what I was used to, you could say. So building confidence, competence, connection and character, as opposed to often coaches just focus purely on football. We try and make that 25% of the focus and the other 75% of those things, which are probably more soft skills. But if you actually think back to your best coaches, the attributes they had are generally one of those three attributes, whether it be they gave you confidence, good character, or just connected real well. Just begging for a fight or a big hit. So it was nothing like I've ever felt, like, even though there was only 15, 20,000 people, which is a lot, obviously, but they were nuts. And they had no idea what was going on. They just knew a big hit was good.
If you've ever wondered how much your life can change from one gutsy decision, you're going to love today's chat. James Geurtjens is the game development officer with the mighty Brisbane Broncos, but his story started long before the titles. He's a bloke who packed up his life, took a risk and backed himself. And that single choice opened the door to everything that followed. From building the game in the UK with Aussie banter and big laughs, to playing on the world stage for Wales and the Netherlands, to running out in front of 20,000 wild Canadians when the Wolfpack were on the rise, James has lived the kind of rugby league stories most of us wish we had. What makes him stand out, though, is how he thinks about the game. James has spent more than a decade shaping players, developing coaches, and leading communities. In this episode, we unpack why taking a risk might be the best thing you ever do, how sport brings people together all over the world, the influence a coach or parent can have when they focus on what actually matters, and how to build genuine confidence in kids without piling on the pressure. A great listen for blokes who live and breathe sport and want to lead with more clarity at home, at work, and in their community. Let's dive in. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality. Find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. Hey James, how you going?
Good, mate. How are you?
Really well, thanks. We got connected a few weeks ago. You did a fantastic post about a bit of your backstory, and there was just so many parts of it that really struck a chord with me. So and I appreciate you coming on and doing the extended version, although you did say before it's your first time doing this sort of thing, so we have to be gentle, right?
Yeah, I'm a bit worried if I say something silly, it'll be on the internet forever. So hopefully got a good editor.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure we edit out anything that doesn't need to be there. I think you'll be fine, mate. Like I said, we're just having a chat. One of the big things, actually, I might start with where your article ended, because I thought this was just a fantastic way to live life. You said, looking back now, that decision to pack up and take a risk changed everything. It taught me that sometimes the best opportunities come when you're willing to step into the unknown and have a crack. And I just reckon that as a quote would just be so good for a lot of people who I know are sort of stuck in the mundane, repeating the same day over and over again. Sometimes you just got to have a crack, right? But tell me, was that, at the time, was it a big leap of faith?
Well, yeah, I was. So I wanted to be a rugby league player. I realised I probably wasn't going to get to that level. I played at an okay enough level where I was playing a little bit of Queensland Cup, but I was also plastering full time. So I grew up on the Gold Coast. So I'd finish. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. I'd travel to Brisbane through the traffic. Takes about 2 hours. I'd then screw gyprock into a wall. The same units over and over. And while it was good money, it was exhausting, because by the time I'd have to go back and then I'd train and then attempt to play football, you're exhausted. And 10 years later, I was down in Brisbane playing for Norths, and then an opportunity to go over the UK, I guess. And part of that role wasn't paying enough to play full time, but it was enough to travel a bit, and they gave me a job as a community coach. So those that don't know, Coventry Bears, they were a semi-professional side in the Midlands, and it was their first ever year. So had a chat to the now wife, but girlfriend at the time, and she wanted to go overseas and have a crack as well with a human resources career. So I pretty much just quit my job, confirmed I'd go up there, and we sold everything. And next thing you know, I went about 2 months up before her, jumped on a plane, and I was in the freezing cold in the middle of England without the correct clothing and going to training, just freezing my absolute ass off. So, very interesting little, very different to what I was used to, you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember '98. I went over there, and my girlfriend at the time, now Mrs. Was still here for a couple of months as well, and I actually found that really challenging because it's like I just remember having a few mornings, same thing, getting up in the cold, going to work, going, "What the fuck am I doing here? Like, why have I done this?" Did you have any moments like that?
I asked myself that a few times. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I think the biggest moment I asked that was our first trial game. We went down to Gloucester All Golds, they were called. So, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours from Coventry, closer to Wales. And so I went there with my mate Simon Phillips, who's an old Cowboys winger. He played with us at Norse. We remember us looking at each other after the warm-up. It was about 10 inches, so 10 inches of mud. We played a whole entire game in. Your hands were blue. It was about -3, it felt like. And we were just black from head to toe. And at the end of that game, he had to go off with a bit of hypothermia. So he had a cup of tea sitting in the back. And I think we won 4-0 that game. And the kicking game was atrocious. And you couldn't run further than a few meters before he tripped over. So that was a big, what am I doing here moment? But turns out the weather eventually gets all right over there.
Yeah, eventually for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So this is rugby league, right?
Yep.
So it's happening across the country, just at a really low level.
Yeah, so I wouldn't call the competition we were playing in. It was semi-professional, so you got paid maybe a couple £100 to play a game, and it was good athletic English people. Yeah. However, there's amateurs pockets there of amateur rugby league, but that's all in the north. So the RFL, so sort of like the governing body, were experimenting, wanting to try and push the game down to the south. And so that was their first little stint in the Midlands. So on top of that, I had to go and teach kids in the freezing cold what rugby league was and how to play, which was another interesting what am I doing here moment. But I soon adjusted and got to learn what I was doing.
Yeah, and it sounds like that actually had quite a impact for you. And by the way you talked about it, saying like how you made it, you said you brought that Aussie banter to it and you just made sure it was fun. And actually it started to catch on and people were quite taken by it because you were running these great sessions. Was that because there was other Aussie guys with you doing the same work?
Yeah, so I was the lead community coach, and that came down to me being the only one in my 30s, and I had a car. So they sort of go, you're in charge of the bag of footies. You're the lead coach, which actually was a stitch up because I'd have to pay for everyone's petrol. But luckily my wife was earning all right money. So, yeah, we'd go to schools. I remember at the start there, because I just did an NRL coaching course before I left, learned a little bit about try and make it fun and do these drills. So out we went. I was probably trying to teach them too much skill and drill. As soon as they got bored after about 4 minutes of doing pass down the hands or teaching tackle tech, I learned real quickly that you'll lose their focus, especially kids that have no idea what rugby league is, let alone rugby union. So me and Jamal Hunt, his name, he was come from Wigan. His dad was actually, I'm trying to think of his uncle was a famous Wigan player from Barbados, and he done drama class, and he just started lighting up the PE room and just started making everything super exciting. And he used to play Jammer Says, and the kids absolutely loved it. So I just sort of jumped on the back of him, but try to make sure we had a purpose, because he wouldn't have an outcome. He'd just be really loud. So we soon learned if we can prep the session and make it fun, because we've only got them for about 45 minutes in the cold, we get a lot of engagement. And so we just discovered from experimentation, obviously it's important. I've learned now in my job how important it is with games and how important that is to kids to learn through games, because their attention span isn't great, especially in about 1 degree in the semi-snow, water, rain, freezing cold.
Yeah. Well, mate, school kids at that age can be hard to engage even in the Australian climate. So I imagine that would have been extremely hard at times. So what did you learn? Like, it's obviously something you've been thrust into. What did you learn about yourself that maybe didn't know you had in you? Like, had you done any coaching or anything like that prior?
None. So the only coaching I would have done would have been I'd get the apprentice at work. So they used to give me the apprentice because I had the patience with the young apprentice, and everyone else would abuse them. So that's as far as I did a bit of coaching. But I had nephews and nieces, and I understand. I was that uncle. People thought to me as that uncle that's sort of fun. So I sort of read that a bit. I think tone is so important as a coach going in with kids. So often, even a lot of PE teachers I work with now, that monotone sort of voice, and they're very disciplined, focused, and things like that. I tried to work on my tone, make it fun, and almost become a wiggle almost in primary school. And obviously when the kids are misbehaving, that's when you can change your tone and be a bit more monotone. And there's all different techniques. And that was purely going on Google and having a research and working things out. And then I try and teach the boys, because we take our players down, and they'd either be really nervous or be a bit over the top. So it was a great experience, not just for learning, but I guess I learned I could manage people all right too. So I guess that's what coaching is, isn't it? It's being a manager. So as a player, I was more of a follower. I just sat on the bench and ran on and run into people and played the ball under my foot. So learning that I had a bit of a skill coaching and connecting with the kids, that was something I probably picked up there, and something I've taken on now.
Yeah, and I think everything that I've learned about coaching is it's not the most gifted player that makes the best coach. It's actually the one that's had different challenges, whether that being skill, dealing with people, whatever, become the best coaches because they have to work so hard in those areas of the game. Do you think that was an advantage for you, that the fact that you weren't necessarily the star, but you were having to put everything into it to try and make your way?
Yeah, it definitely helped for me, for my journey of football. So I got into football purely from my brother. Obviously was into football. I grew up in South Brisbane, where rugby league and Broncos are huge, but I was a kid that wouldn't talk much. I was very quiet. So as I played football, I built confidence, and I wasn't the most academic kid, but whenever I had a football in my hand, I was probably one of the most confident kids going around at the school. So for me, I'm big on trying to teach the kids confidence, because I feel that confidence and competence sort of go hand in hand. So we'll go to schools all the time now. We'll work with kids that are really shy or not very confident, but they'll get a chance to play games, and we'll do challenges and things like that. And just by putting a football in front of them, they come out of their shell a little bit. So I sort of see myself in that sort of thing. So a big part of my job, which I really enjoy, is obviously connecting with the kids, not just the little ones, but teenagers as well, but seeing how much confidence they get through just a sport. Doesn't have to be rugby league. I did a lot of multi-sports over there as well. Ended up being a PE facilitator for a year or two. But just all sorts of sport, how much kids, some are academic and some just really need sport to sort of get outside their shell.
I love that, and having that approach of actually teaching them more about life than necessarily what the curriculum says. I think you get far more value out of that, and the kids appreciate it more too, don't they?
I've had teacher rattled. It was at Albany Creek, so we run like a little session. I try and make things into a challenge. So instead of telling them to get in lines and things like that, the first challenge is always get in groups of 3 or 4 on those 5 cones. And then she was rattled because the kid that never spoke, and he also was really bad at academic stuff she was trying to explain, he took charge and started getting him into, because they just all follow the one cone where all the popular kids are. Then poor him, he's by himself, so he just chirped up, put them all in order, and she was rattled how just a bit of football, a bit of sport, and that was a kind of a cool thing I'll remember, because it sort of reminds you of what I was like growing up too.
I love that, and only sport can do that. Bring out skills that maybe just can't be seen in that academic setting.
Yeah,
how good.
Absolutely. So now my role is I look after, on top of my Broncos work, I look after a club called the Aspley Devils. So we've got about 750, 800 players, all the way from 2-year-olds all the way up to masters. And we try and just enforce, it probably comes from the NRL. So when I worked for the NRL, we just focused on 4 things. So building confidence, competence, connection, and character, as opposed to often coaches just focus purely on football. We try and make that 25% of the focus, and the other 75% of those things, which are probably more soft skills. But if you actually think back to your best coaches, the attributes they had are generally one of those 3 attributes, whether it be they gave you confidence, good character, or just connected real well.
Yeah, spot on. And I wanted to ask you, because there'll be other coaches and even parents listening. What are some of those strategies that you use to actually build confidence in these youngsters?
It's important, positive feedback. So you can steer how the environment is just by being positive. I find often coaches I had growing up, especially, they'll tell you what you're doing wrong, but you can still steer the ship more, just as well, if not better, by giving the kids compliment, telling what they're doing right. And if you're like me, and you right now, I get very little compliments from my wife, so I'll take a compliment as soon as I can get it. So by complimenting another kid on how well he's doing for putting his hands up to catch the ball, they'll go, oh, I want to compliment, and they'll try and do the same. So I try, even though sometimes you obviously have to tell them, you got to be a little bit negative here and there if the behaviour's issue.
Of course, yeah.
But there's ways you can focus on just creating a positive environment. And if it's not a positive environment, it starts getting toxic real quick, especially from the sidelines, the parents. And it's just how important communication is and connection. It's probably my number one focus for both myself and what I try and push on the coaches.
Yeah, I love that. It's amazing. You said, you don't cop a lot of that sort of complimentary stuff. I think that's true in so many different circles.
Yeah.
Like workforces, people go, no news is good news. You know, we know we're doing well if we don't hear anything. And it's just crazy, isn't it? And it's funny, you talked about like doing that with the children. I remember coaching a bunch of coaches and explaining that concept of, you know, you'll get more engagement if you give them positive. And I asked one of them a question, they give me a good answer, and I really gave them a heap of like validation for what they'd said. And then of course more hands go up after that. And so I let them go through that, and then I go, see, it even worked for you guys. And I think it's like such an underutilized skill, right?
Even like, so after I worked in the UK, I worked for the NRL for a while, and I started, and it was scary too. I had to start coaching the coaches. So these are coaches that have been around the game for decades. And here I am, I've been over to the UK in the cold for 4 years, and I'm telling them what to do. But doing the same concept, even because now I'm a coach developer, you've still got to do the same thing. So obviously compliment the coaches and things like that. But even using questioning, that's something, a skill you've got to develop, and getting them to talk and things like that. So when you're saying looking after like the coaches, I'd have to try and use my questioning ability and working on that to work on them before I tell them how important questioning is as a coach. And it's an ongoing development as a coach developer and as a coach. So as long as you're someone that's always trying to learn, you'll do a good job, I think.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it also demonstrates that you've obviously got a natural flair for it. So you've found your way to where you're meant to be. But it's also what you described then is like continuing to evolve those skills. And it's amazing when you're immersed in it, you've got two choices. You either go, well, this is too hard, and you make it really difficult and maybe even move on to something else. Or you go, well, I've just got to learn everything I can about this because I want to do as good a job as possible. Yeah,
exactly. It's I think you'll talk to some of the best coaches who've been around forever. For instance, I did a fair bit with Neil Henry when I was at the NRL. He was a bit of a mentor there, where I do little programs and help him out. And he's one of the top coaches going around, and he was big on, I don't know everything, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can. So you have to have that intrapersonal knowledge to understand that you always got to be learning. I think there's a cool little graph I've seen where it shows you what you know and then what you don't know, and then the 75% of it is what you know you don't know, or was it what you don't know you don't know?
Yeah, that's right. It's like 98%. Yeah, but we get it's in the same graph. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's so much knowledge and information out there, so you've just got to open your mind to the fact that you just don't know anything really.
Yes, exactly. You know a small amount, but it's constantly evolving. So if you don't keep up, you'll get left behind, I feel.
Do you reckon that's why Neil Henry's been so sought after, even after he's stopped being an NRL head coach, is because he has that ability to connect with people and, like you said, make it about the other person, and he's got those interpersonal skills? Yeah, he's one of he can watch, I'd be with him and he'd watch a little segment of a football game, and he can pick up so many little things you wouldn't pick up. But at the same time, he's always researching and I think he works part-time. I'm not sure if he's part-time or full-time with the NRL now. But he's got a good life there on the Gold Coast, living on the beach, drinking lattes most of the day. So I don't know if he'll go back to football, especially after the Titans experience.
But I think he still does a lot of rep footy, especially with the ladies. So it was awesome to work with him. And then I see him around sometimes, and I've definitely tried to take in as much as I can of his coaching styles. And he's big on the not over coaching and just letting them work things out on their own. So I'm slowly trying to get better at that and try and push that onto my coaches as well.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's certainly got to be a different breed to be the head coach, don't you, in those environments with the pressure and, relentless.
Yeah, I work with so Scott Prince is obviously the head of NRLW at the Bronx, and him and my manager Paul Dye is head of football. So working with those ladies and just it's a full on job, that one too. So dealing as I don't think I could do that. I'll just sit down and from the side and I'll help the young community coaches. Thank you very much. Too much pressure.
Yeah, I remember Nathan Brown when he stepped away from the Warriors in his last head coaching job, and he said, I think I'm going to go back and help some other coaches stay in their job rather than have to be, So I imagine he's now really good at being the sounding board, and I've heard Rolsey talk about it a few times, saying how much he's got that person he can just go to and ask those questions from a place of experience. So I'd much prefer that sort of role, I think, myself.
It's important that even the community coach have someone they can lean on, and I know there's development officers out there and things like that, but we're really lucky at Aspley. There's myself, and there's also we've got a coach mentor now, so Neil Wharton, who's endless Queensland Cup games and coaching premierships and things like that. So we've got a couple of people there. Even I'm learning off him. And my initial team as well. So I'm really lucky. I've got some big name ex-players I work with week in, week out.
Yeah, awesome. So in that stint at Coventry, did you have any memorable playing moments?
Oh, mate, there was a fair few. So we're a developing team, so very Midlands based, but we had some Northerners come down. We played from London to Newcastle. I played the Toronto Wolfpack. We went up to Canada. We played Toronto there in front of about 20,000 crazy Canadian fans.
Wow.
We actually put in a good effort there. It was probably our best game. We almost had them even at halftime, and then their full-time ex-NRL players sort of started dominating. But that was a great week, especially after the game. We went to France. We played in Toulouse. Some of the best culture and food going around, because in England they always feed you after a game. So the feed in Keighley is very different to the feed in the middle of south of France. So really enjoyed the food there and the experience. I was lucky enough to also play in Wales and Ireland, Netherlands and Germany and things like that. So though I didn't play the NRL, the highest level, I still think I've made the most of what I've had just playing at a lower semi-professional level, especially with all the travel.
Yeah, awesome. So do you think it would have been worth persisting in Toronto? 20,000 they were getting every week.
Yeah, so it was really well done. It was almost like there was a beer festival with football instead of being football with beer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was huge, obviously, because they were very good, very strong team. I remember flying there. They put us out at a university. There was all sorts of weird animals. I think we saw a badger or something that was near the complex. Everyone started freaking out. But when we went to the game, they had one of the best DJs in Canada playing DJ. It was just going off. The beer festival was going off. And by the time the football kicked off, everyone was blind, and it was just full of crazy, almost like hockey player. They were all for hockey player fans. So they were just begging for a fight or a big hit. So it was nothing like I've ever felt. Even though there was only 15, 20,000 people, which is a lot, obviously, but they were nuts. And they had no idea what was going on. They just knew a big hit was good.
How good. Yeah. That's fantastic. Oh, I love it. That's brilliant marketing. Knowing your audience, making it about something else and getting them in.
I think they got Sonny Bill Williams, and then they lost all their money. So I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Can't overinvest in these things. How did you go from playing then to? You said you got an opportunity at Wasps Rugby. And there was something specific I wanted to ask about that part of the story. But how do you go from where you were there to getting that opportunity?
So Wasps moved from London to Coventry, and there's a place called the Ricoh Arena, which is where the Coventry Blues play their soccer team. It's a big, nice stadium. Yeah. So they were going bankrupt. So Wasps Rugby, who were quite a financial outfit, took over and they bought the stadium. And so they obviously wanted to go into the community and get more people. Because that area, when we went there, they barely knew what rugby union was. There was some teams around.
Really?
And even though it was next to rugby, the actual where it originated, it was very, very soccer mad. So they came in, and instead of competing with us, because we were just a small little drop in the water for them, they sort of took us under the wing like a big brother almost, which is unheard of over there, because it's almost blasphemy when we go into schools and they'd realise we were rugby league. They'd go, "Oh no, we can't have you." So I'd pretend we're just rugby. It used to work well. But they took us under their wing, and I think because the Four Nations, I believe, were on the following year, so they wanted to get Australia in and do a game at Ricoh Arena, which they ended up doing. But they used to let us promote. I used to run around in a Coventry Bears big head bear outfit at half time, and I used to wave at people in my Coventry Bears. It was very warm, even in the cold. But they took us on real well. And then from doing little things together in the community, because they wanted to get into schools we were in, then they obviously offered me some part-time work where they paid twice as much, and they gave you the good Under Armour kit. So I was more than happy to take on 2 part-time roles. And
nice.
Just the different budgets they had. So we'd run like massive academy sessions, and we'd travel to all the posh schools. It was a big eye-opener what you could do with a bigger budget, and you got straight into a school too when it was rugby union. So they were ahead of their time as well with their coaching philosophies at the RFU. So doing their coaching course, I learnt a fair bit. NRL's probably caught up to that now, and NRL are doing really well. But I think the RFL was a little bit behind in that retrospect, where everyone sort of just gave it their best in rugby league. So I really enjoyed the rugby union part of it. Had no idea what to do in a ruck though. We're a line out.
Yeah. You mentioned the power of sport to bring people together is a big learning you took from that WASP experience. What did they do that was so good at having that impact on the community?
Because they had a bit of a budget. They had a good little team as well. So there was little programs, which I've actually done similar here now. There was, what would they call it? Train like a pro. So they'd get, this one was a men's program, and they'd get men in the community and bring them in and train them like a pro, and they'd do like wellbeing things, and especially lonely blokes in the community. Those people then obviously became big fans and volunteers and things like that. And programs like we teach mathematics. So we were talking before about how kids don't engage that much academically sometimes. So everything was rugby math. So we'd go out and we'd create graphs, and we'd play tag games where you'd put in Roman numerals, or we do all sorts of things like that. So I think even though it was a big buzz because they were obviously the big rugby union team in the competition, it obviously gave us the ability to bring everyone together and just do a lot of good things in the community through that. And obviously having the budget there, we wanted to do that to the Bears, but with very little pounds, it was a bit difficult. So I think the Broncos are now doing really well in that space as well, and so is the NRL. So it's definitely sport's a very good way to bring the community together and do good. Not just scream at the referee on TV.
Absolutely. Although that still is a
that's
very
okay. At the level, not in the community football, please. That is,
of course, yes. Not
as
at
a
the
young
ground.
teenager.
Yeah. TV gave you life.
Yes.
Before we get to a big part of what I want to talk about around coach development and player development, do you have like a moment as a sports person when you're actually playing where and you need to be a little bit self-indulgent through this, where you just had something that went really well and you just look back at that with fond memories?
There's been so many, I think. One of my favourite ones, even though it wasn't the highest level. So obviously I went to the World Cup for Wales as like an extended bench warmer. I didn't get much of a run there. They're full of Super League talent, so it was a great experience. But the following get together, I couldn't make the team. They had strong middles there. So the coach, actually, his son was the coach of the Netherlands team. It was a developing like 4th tier team, and so he gave it my number. And technically, I could drop down to a tier 3 or 4, a tier 4, I think it was, and go to the Netherlands and have an opportunity there. So flew over there, about an hour away from London, and then I got picked up in a little car, taken to the president's house. We went for a bike ride around, not Amsterdam, underneath Amsterdam. I forget the place. went for about 5 hours. I didn't realise how much you ride there. It was like 5 hours. And then we went to training, drove for an hour and a half. So they have players over there in the Netherlands that travel hours just to train in a local school. So met all them, spoke okay English. I didn't realise we'd play touch and they'd try and take my head off. So I remember playing touch. Communication wasn't great because some only spoke Dutch. Every time I get the ball, they try and test themselves because they haven't got much football to watch there, and they don't. They can whack, and they're tall, and it was skill-wise they're very far behind. But it was just great to see how passionate these people are on the other side of the world. There's no rugby league there. They travel hours to train. We went to Germany. We played the Germans. They hadn't won a game in something like 10 or 15 years, the Netherlands team. And I just come off an injury, was very unfit. Ended up having played most of the game as a ball player, which is not something I do much. I was at 13. But we ended up winning. It was so cool. They hadn't won in decades. We won by just on the last 10 minutes. It was very different kind of football. It was very raw, but somehow it worked. And then I think when we were at the end, we were drinking Steins in the middle of Germany. And I thought it was just like, this is how good is this? So I've kept in contact with a fair few of the boys there. I'd love to go back one day. But yeah, definitely that was one of them. And it's something not many people have done. Gone and played in the middle of Germany for the Netherlands. I had no idea how to sing the national anthem, but I had a crack.
A bit like Java the other week next to Cam Munster.
Absolutely.
Mate, that's so good. And I think anyone that's been in a dressing room or change room after a win knows that feeling. But add in that you're in Germany and you're drinking Steins, and that, like anyone who's done that experience as well, like next level. It
was the same in Canada. Like after we played the Toronto, before I knew it, bloke I looked up to a lot was Fui Moi Moi. So me and him are lost at some Irish pub, and he's getting me Steins. Again, Steins are back on. And I'm sitting there drinking Steins with Fui Moi Moi in the middle of Toronto at some Irish bar. Just me and him, like, how did I get here? So
that's so good.
There's been a few of these, and I'll slowly start remembering them. But yeah, there's been a few. That's all I'll say.
That's fantastic. One of my all-time favourite players, Fui. What a great guy. Mate, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So many moments there, you must, like you said, just surreal, pinching yourself going, how on earth did I get here?
I thought of another one too. So during COVID, I come out of retirement and played for the Albany Creek Crushers down the road, and we managed to talk Sam Thaiday and Justin Hodges. We had Mick Robinson as well, who's an old halfback for the Bronx. And that was another moment when I think I sprayed Hodjo for not pushing. And I was like, hang on, what am I doing? How did this happen? And I looked to the left of me, there's Sam Thaiday about to run a tip on off me, and that was another surreal moment. So
did he take it? Did he take it well?
Probably not. He wouldn't listen to me. He was very retired with a Gumby leg, so
yeah, right.
Let him off.
You're very much immersed in the Broncos setup at the moment, and you were saying before we hit record that you're working with a lot of internationals there, but you said you're the only dual international.
I know. We go and do kids clinics, and they obviously announce like Michael Hancock, 5 premierships, Australia, Nick DeVere, Jack Reed's England, Drew Yowie, Australia, and then out on purpose they always announce me as the Scottish international, even though I've never been to Scotland in my life. And they say there's a big statue of me in Scotland somewhere on a kilt. So all the kids in Brisbane know me as the Scottish international. It's played 5 games of football, they tell them. So
outstanding.
Interesting on that. Yep.
So what was it? Did the sort of that sort of ran its course, and you were ready to come home? You were sick of the cold, or was there something else that was calling you? How do you then end up back in Australia?
I'd be the wife. So we were ready. We'd done 4 years, sort of living, month to month, traveling whenever we could. So the great thing about playing in the middle of the UK is we could go to Croatia and get some cheap flights. You can go to Italy, Rome. You could go anywhere you want, and it's only going to cost you about £100 to £200. So we did that for a fair while, and then it was time to be adults. So my now wife's visa was running up, and she was sick of hanging out because I was mid-30s, and we're hanging out with young 20-year-olds most of the time because they were the players. So we went back. We got a house. She became pregnant, and then all of a sudden I needed a real job. So it was a very stressful month or two for me. I all found this out first month I got back to Australia. So I went back to plastering. for about 5-6 weeks, and then I hated it. I was getting paid good money, but I just getting up at 4 a.m., breathing in concrete dust. I got a good job actually. I was cutting manholes out of high rises. I was just on the grinder, hiding up in the ceilings on my phone half the day anyway. But a job popped up at the NRL, and so I put in for it, and they were struggling to find someone. But I actually had a really good CV, which has come out of nowhere for them because of all the work I did in the UK. So I got an interview and picked up a job, and then I was out to Ipswich, which is about an hour and a half away from me every day. So great place to learn. They love their footy out in Ipswich. But yeah, I was quick to move on as soon as I got a bit of a pay rise. I moved back over to North Brisbane. The drive is not exciting.
No, I bet. Does it make it easier that you're working in a place like Ipswich, just like rugby league heartland, or is it
compared to Coventry? It was a lot easier to get into a school. It was definitely, it's a lot drier there. So out in Ipswich, it's dry, but they're rugby league mad. I don't know if you know much about the Ipswich Jets. So they were in the same complex as us, and they were huge. The Walker brothers are there at the time, who coached me back when I was at Burleigh for a year. So it was a pretty good connection there. But it was coach education wise. So like I said, I had to learn how to run and facilitate a coaching course pretty much a month in. What was difficult about that was that's when the NRL brought in the game development framework. So tag in under sixes, and they pushed Queensland wasn't that bad. They pushed the premierships back to 13s from 12s. Yeah. So my first 4 weeks, I did a coaching course, and I got sprayed by a bunch of coaches telling me I'm ruining rugby league. I said, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But the more you learn about that stuff, you realise it's the governing body doing what's best for the amount of kids signing up. And actually, to be fair to them, we're absolutely killing it now in the 6s and 7s. We're going backwards, and now we're going up every year. So definitely another one going to step into the unknown. Definitely work for the better, I think, those two things.
Yeah. Is that parents still stuck in, well, this is how it was in my day when we did have like a premiership table and all those sorts of things? Like what was their
100%. So I think down in, because you're in Sydney, aren't
you? Yeah.
In Sydney, I'm pretty sure they had like grand finals in under 8s and 9s and 10s, I'm pretty sure. So it's always been pushed back in Queensland. So it was a good way to slowly and give it a go and see how it goes. But I find as soon as they've taken the premiership away from them little age groups, I deal with parents, it's so much more easier. Like the sidelines are much more relaxed. We teach our coaches, go for it, count the scores, and the parents count the scores, that's fine. But your number one goal is just to make sure they're developing and you're focusing on them having fun and getting game time. So one thing that's really good now is we set time limits for each kid, so every kid's getting them the right amount of time, and it's not just big Billy Baxter who runs over the top of everyone. And it's a big focus on development. Once they're 13, go for gold. But working with parents a lot now, you realize a lot of parents want to live through their kids, and educating, part of my job now as well. I'm trying to use social media to educate parents how to be a parent in sport. Because they see NRL and they, like I said, spray the referee on TV and things like that. But, mate, I'll get some people on the sidelines abuse a 15-year-old girl who's coaching under 7s because she missed a forward pass and things like that. So it's important to get that education out, which we're slowly getting there. But the more popular rugby league gets, I guess, the harder that battle is. So it's a win-lose-win situation.
From my experience, it's also them releasing their frustration from the week in the most inappropriate way possible. Like you said, young referees. It's the same. So most of my youth developments in football is in soccer, and it's the same thing. And yet, best practice around the world is they don't have competitive till like 15, 16 sometimes.
No. So they got all that from Europe. I forget whether it's Belgium or somewhere, but
Belgium, Spain.
Is that the one where they've got the most Winter Olympic gold medals or something, and they're one of the smallest countries? It's been a while since
I haven't heard that one, but their football program, they've basically made it a development program through the schools, and they've got like, what is it, 3 to 5 million or something, I couldn't tell you exactly, and yet they're one of the best teams in the world because of what they've set up and doing it in a way that actually helps development rather than just about helping parents feel like they've got some status because their kids are winning a game or something.
Because it is important kids win and lose. And
Of course.
that's what I would have to. I think the NRL didn't get ahead of it. They sort of just made the rules and then the media did their thing. But we teach, you want them to learn to compete. So constantly play games, teach them to winning and losing graciously and things like that. Count the score if you want, but your focus shouldn't have to be the score. It should be making 5 tackles, or as they get teenagers, you're 4 pushes or 5 pushes off the ball, or things like that. It's, as a coach, I think we focus too much on the outcome and the result, but at community level, like, no one knows who won the under 14 grand final 5-6 years ago at your local footy ground. Like, and what they do remember though is the memories they had with you and how you made them feel and things like that. So instilling that in coaches is part of my job, and it's a tough one, but yeah, once someone sits with a coach and explains that to them, I think it's a lot more. It's slowly you're chipping away.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, isn't it? It's like you're educating the coaches on how to set that environment up so that the parents know exactly where they stand, and then giving them the skills to be able to just pull parents into line and say, well, this is what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's the biggest. So usually if I run, so now I don't do coach courses now, but I'll do coach seminars and updates. And it always start with, what's your biggest challenge? And it goes around, they write it on a bit of paper. And every single one we've had, parents is one of the biggest challenge. And you'll find most of them coaches that are struggling with the parents, they don't communicate at all, or very well at all. So I'm a big believer in getting all the parents in a WhatsApp group and just over communicating everything. We've had coaches make little contracts together on how you should parent, as in they make them sign them so they can always go, oh, no, you sign this, remember, I will not yell at the referee, and things like that. So over communication is definitely a big benefit. But also another big one's kids getting bored quickly. They don't listen, and their just behaviour's outrageous. And a lot of the time you can find out straight away they're probably a boring coach, because they've explained that to you for the last 5 minutes in a long sentence way.
Get them started, mate.
Especially with Xboxes and kids playing games all the time, they need to be entertained quick. So there's little tactics there and little techniques you can use, but it's easier too, because you sit back and let them play, and then little adjustments and different rule changes. And that's the big part of coaching now, is all that deliberate play sort of stuff, which is gold.
Yeah, you're not teaching them formations and shapes.
They can learn a drill and then go and play football horrendously. So try and teach them how to solve problems and play games, please.
Yeah. And you talked about how the importance of it being about the development and making it fun, and ultimately it's making sure they come back next year, because if you just keep pushing them and make it about results, and the child opts out. Like, I don't know what it's like in league, but in football, it's like the dropout rates from 13 plus are huge, because kids just get jack of their parents carrying on like lunatics.
Mate, we get it still now. So it's parents they love their kid and they want what's best for them, but they also want what's best for themselves. That's having the kid play football like they did, and they put a lot of pressure on them, and they're constantly, which is fine, but they'll send a lot of complaints and things like that. And it's all to do with game time. They deserve to be on the field the whole time. They're the best player. And I coach kids, even up to 15, should be sampling and experimenting in different positions, because, like you probably know, you could be a 13-year-old kid and have a body of a 11-year-old kid playing against a kid that's 13 with a body of a 15-year-old. Then who are you to tell that kid that's maturing later that he's a winger and he's got to sit on the bench and go on the wing? So while Division 1 football is a little bit different at 13s and up, they want to try and get a premiership, things like that. I think we need to have a whole view on how we are coaching our kids, because at the end of the day, until they're 16, 17, you don't know what they're going to be like. And they can't play for the Broncos and they can't play for the Eels. I see you're an Eels fan. If they quit footy when they were 13, 14, can they? So,
yeah, absolutely. Most of the work I end up doing is around the parents, because if we can get the parents on the same page and help them create a similar environment in the home environment and on the drive home and on game day and all those different things, and help them sort of sing from the same hymn sheet, then that's when you get that's that connection and that bringing people together that you talked about earlier.
It's funny, the drive home thing. So obviously I've recently a parent, so now I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I'd be no kids telling parents, when you're on the drive home, that's the most important thing, to be positive and, don't put pressure on them and things like that. But I took my little girl to her first dance program, and I kept taking her to dance on a Friday, and she just wouldn't get involved. she'd hold him to my leg all the time. And I found myself in that situation, and I was into her. Like, you're embarrassing me. He's holding my leg crying. And then I sort of had to stop myself and go, oh, wow, it's actually easy to get put in there. You've got to be able to check yourself. But I guess you won't check yourself unless you have been given that information. So that's why I think social media and podcasts like this are so important, just to hit them at all different angles, whether it's a post or if it's a video, just got and getting parents and just getting in front of them before it happens. I guess that's something we're going to try to do better at Aspley, which is the club I look after. And then, obviously having that Bronco head on there too gets a little bit more views. So it's a big job.
Absolutely. I think it's important what you just acknowledged then too. And I say this all the time on the podcast. I'm not coming to you telling you from a place of perfection. I get it wrong as a coach and as a parent all the time. But that awareness and being able to, like you said, check yourself and having that information allows you just to drag yourself back from the edge so that you can manage it. It's like we're not preaching, we're educating so that you can make an informed decision and the one that's going to be best for your child, not one that is going to be best for your status as a elite sporting parent or something like that.
Parents are like not saying they're like kids, but so kids, if you tell them to do something, they often won't do it. So you can tell them through either a challenge or getting them to work it out for themselves, or just telling a story. I think stories are really powerful. So I think social media is so important. I think the NRL are doing a better job at it now, and they're just getting in front of them and doing little scenarios and videos and things like that. Because end of the day, you send them a big document that says, "Don't do this." No one's going to read it, and even then, they're going to go, "Who are you to tell me that?" So it's a big challenge. But yeah, it's all sports deal with it, I think.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, the stories, which is why I love getting people on here who've got a good story, and most people do, even when they don't think it. And that's why I loved that post that, like, I'd never met you before. I don't even know if we're already connected on LinkedIn, but that story grabbed my attention because it was like you were just writing from the heart, but that's the things that people want to hear. So the more of these stories that we can tell, I think, that's how we're going to get the impact that we're after. So, I love that, the stories. Now, speaking of stories, you've got for those who are only listening, James has got his Broncos shirt on there. You must have had, even though you're working in development and you're not fully involved, you must have had an incredible ride the last few months as the Broncos, not even just the winning the grand final, but just how the whole thing unfolded, like the ups, the downs, and then that momentum towards the end, and then what an incredible finish to the season.
I don't know, you've probably been to Brisbane a few times, but Broncos are so huge here that when the Broncos are losing, everyone's depressed. So that year we got the spoon. I worked for the NRL at that time, and the poor guys in my role now were getting bullied at school. Like,
really?
Mate, it was tough. I remember, so I played footy with Darius back in the Burleigh Bears days, and we went to a gala day. I took him there, and he was signing autographs, and a kid put their hand up, and the first question was, "Oh, when are you going to retire?" Things like that. And it was ruthless. And I had to go, no. So when the Broncos are winning and when Kevy got him to the grand final, that's when I first got this job at the Bronx. And I loved it. Everyone loved me and went into schools. And even last year we did okay. We didn't do too badly, but we struggled obviously at the end there. But absolutely, the actual place is buzzing. And if you go around anywhere with the Broncos, because obviously you have to wear this for work, everyone's saying hello to you. Everyone's looking in the car because I drive a Tasman now, so they're famous for being the Broncos car. And it's definitely a good vibe. But that whole week, that was ridiculous. I took my daughter to a second ever game. So the first game I took it to was last year. I took it to a Penrith game. We got belted and she complained the whole time. She had to watch Peppa Pig. It was the worst experience ever. So I told her I'll take her again. And it was that Melbourne game where they ended up winning. Reece Walsh scored a head. So all she cares about is Reece Walsh. No idea who he is, but she just likes Reece Walsh.
She's not alone there.
No, he scored a couple of tries. Everyone went on the field. She had the best experience ever. Now she actually watches football with me. And then that from the Canberra game, so she sat in the lounge room with me and my wife, and that was on the edge sort of stuff. I couldn't believe we won that one. Yeah. And then from there, obviously we went all the way to the grand final. So Dave Donahue, the big boss at the Bronx,
Yeah.
He just decided to fly every staff member down to the game and put us up at a hotel, which is
Oh,
another good thing about the Broncos is like they actually care about their staff, and they have a great HR team there, and they put us up. We had a very big night. We went on a party boat beforehand. We went and got good seats. We went and partied with the players until about 4 a.m. Then we had the Broncos ball that week. So 4 days later, the players slept. The Thursday night with the Broncos ball, and then all month it's Christmas party season, isn't it? And I've had heaps of golf days with sponsors because in my job too, I've got to make sure I engage with the sponsors at the community level.
Sounds
make sure they sign up. And what do they like doing? They like playing golf. So I'm the most unhealthy human this week. So it's not looking good for Christmas. But I'm hoping my New Year's resolution will be to get back in the gym and try and lose about 10 kilos.
Mate, you've got to do the right thing by work. You can't disappoint the people if they're expecting.
That's what I tell my wife. It's a stakeholder relationship thing. If I don't play golf or go away to these, we went to Derby Day. We took some sponsors to Derby Day. Things like that. I won't have my job, so I won't go into too much. Actually, I might get back and I might get them all taken away from me for having too much fun.
Exactly. Oh, my missus takes a piss out of me when I'm watching some endless sport somewhere. And she's like, "Well, are you working again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've got to keep working."
Mate, so Darrell Yaoyi works with me, so we work together. He does Central Brisbane. He's obviously a podcaster, and that's all. He's same thing. He's got to watch all his football because he dead set has to talk about it every week. So I'm sure his wife has the same conversations.
Yeah. But we got to make sure everyone's keeping happy, so that's part of it, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you see, James, as the most important thing going forward around coach and player development? That you sort of see a future trajectory of what's most important?
So I've had to come with a philosophy for the Devils, and I think the NRL is simpler. So we need to be famous for being safe first and foremost. So obviously all the coaches and all the staff having blue cards and things like that, but we also can't. It's thought it was a bit of a dangerous sport, even though I reckon there'd be more injuries in soccer than rugby league, especially with shins and headbutts and things like that. But we need to be. I think we need to be famous, for being safe. Fun's a big one too, because kids, like I said, they've got Xbox, they've got VR sets and all sorts of things, and that's who you're battling with. And it's a lot easier to put your kid in front of the TV than it is to get them showered, put them in the car, and take them to football training, and sit in a stand somewhere for an hour and a half, and then drag them back. So make sure it's fun and they're wanting to be there, and they just create an environment where the players are enjoying time with their mates, and then also effective. So you got to be effective as well in development. And I think that's not just focusing on football. It's focusing, if you're a coach, on yourself and also on them just as much. So I try and teach that to the coaches. They'll come and they'll think it's just drills and skills and football, but how important it is to your interpersonal skills, but also how you give yourself feedback and learn from what works and what doesn't work. But at the end of the day, it's all about them. So you can't make it about yourself. Make it all about them. And if you can get to know your players, your life's going to be a lot easier. So pretty much be fun, safe and effective, and I reckon we're going to do a good job.
Yeah, that's so good. One of the bugbears with football is coaches go off and do whatever their next license is, and they come back with all these great football philosophies, and it's like, why aren't they teaching all those things that you just described about managing people, about how you're going to get the best out of them, communicating? Well, they touch on it, but nowhere near the level. So these coaches come and then go overdo the technical stuff, and they miss the bit that's going to have the biggest positive impact, and they focus on the part that, let's be honest, if you're not doing the other stuff, it's going to be hit and miss anyway. You get a lot of coaches that are coaching to the parents, so they're trying to tell the parents how much they know. So then they're giving all the answers. So I try and get a lot of my coaches to stop giving the answers. So let them work it out for themselves. So act dumb sometimes and play games, and then make them go off and get in a huddle and think of tactics, and you'll get some crazy tactics that will not work. But it's all about letting them experiment and sample things, and then slowly guiding them through questioning. I think that's a great way to learn, especially for like 11-year-olds and up, because their peers are
what matters to them. They couldn't care less what you have to say or the parents. But if you can get, Johnny, who's one of the best players, to tell them that, your shoulder has to go on the belly button and then you wrap your arms and you put your head here, they're going to listen to that and take that home. Or if, of course, they work it out themselves. So, yeah, my biggest thing to coaches would be don't make it about you, make it mainly about the players. But when it comes to you, make sure you're learning at all times and getting better.
Yeah, spot on. It's common sense, but more often than not, people get caught up in a whole lot of different areas. Like you said, they're trying to coach to the parents, or like they want to get discovered or something, or move up the ranks if they've got that sort of aspirations. I think the best advertisement from steering clear of the technical aspects is if you look at what happened in rugby league probably 10, 15 years ago, when all these coaches are like teaching this robotic football because that's what was happening on the television.
Yep.
And we lose all our young halves coming through, so we miss a generation of halves and they all turned into fullbacks or something else. Yep. Because they weren't being allowed to do what you described, which is sort things out for themselves, work things out for themselves, try things, be footballers first, not trying to stick to this robotic.
Well, they memorise drills. So like my daughter now is learning to read. She memorises words, but she struggles sounding them out, sort of thing. And like we say, the drills, they'll learn the drill and they'll struggle with that. So even like warm-ups, my warm-up's a challenge where they have to work together and solve things, whether it's get in groups. I do one where they jog around, they mix in, and they get in a group of 3. And so they have to work out how to communicate, because those kids that don't get the ball ever, they're always sitting with their hands in their pockets, kicking stones because they don't get the ball. It's because they don't, yell for the ball and organise themselves. So there's games you can do in a warm-up that focus on solving problems. And could be, you're in a group of 5 and you make a human pyramid, or you make the letter S, or you point north, and constantly doing things in games, especially with the kids, then you're creating problem solvers. And there's ways you can adapt to the game of rugby league to focus on eyes up football. And it's endless just playing rugby league, not necessarily thinking of all the drills in the world, but just modifying the game of rugby league, or in your case, the game of soccer, where you can focus on a certain skill. So, and it's so much easier to coach. You just sit back, let them solve problems, and it'll take a while, but after maybe a few months, it'll just come naturally to them. And you'll be surprised how much they'll actually take that into everyday life, where they might be in the classroom and they'll work out, I might do this, and I might, ask the teacher and get a problem solved. And I think we need to be better at that as parents as well. And it's funny, all the behaviour management stuff I've learned, and I'm with kids all the time. I'll go out and ask my daughter to put her shoes on, and I've got no chance. So it's funny how that works.
It is, isn't it? They need to have a different voice.
Yeah.
I love that. So you're teaching them how to think, not what to think. And I think that is such an important skill for all of them.
You're just pushing them in the right direction. So there's no wrong answer, but there's less effective answers. So no, that's not wrong, but is it as effective as this? Oh, you know what I mean? So if they learn that, half a chance, I think.
Yeah. I think there's been a certain degree of that everyone realised that the everyone gets a ribbon era didn't work, and almost going to the other extreme. But it's like, no, some of those principles were actually, they did work. And I like what you said before about like giving everyone equal playing time. For me, when I'm doing the coach to coaches stuff, it's like, it's community football. Like, when we're not here to win, we're here to develop players so that they'll be good in 5-10 years down the track. So if you can't win with everyone getting even game time, well then you don't win. It's not like we're not here just about wins and losses.
No, exactly. So, and that's the thing, we'll find coaches will obviously look at players and they'll see these 12 are really good. You're going to start and they're going to play most of the game, and then the 4 other less developed kids don't get much of a run. They might come on for the last 10 minutes, and if they're winning, they might come on for the last 10 minutes of the second half. And then what happens is at the end of the year, the coach goes, I knew I was right. Look at this. Those 12 are killing it, and those 4 are terrible.
No kidding.
They played about an hour of football the entire season, and the rest of them play an hour every week. So I think it's so important that they not only just play as much football on the weekends and get in as they can, but also at training. You need to play, at least them younger ones, you're playing half the sessions games of football. And like I said, adjust the rules. But they're there to play football. They're not there to listen to you talk or listen to you tell them to do a drill that's pointless that you saw on the NRL team or the Queensland Cup do at the footy on the weekend.
Yeah. It's so much more fulfilling too when you help one of those kids that started off the year struggling, and they do something that like they just didn't think they were capable of, and getting that reaction. I remember back probably about 10 years, I was coaching my young fellas team, and there was a couple of girls in the team, and one of them barely touched the ball all season, but every time that she got near it in a game, like you just like praise and I remember her dad saying to me like she enjoyed the year so much. She didn't come back and play because she wasn't a footballer, but he said, oh, we were going out to lunch, and she actually asked, oh, can Ian come with us to lunch, because she knew it was going to be a positive experience. So her dad thought that was brilliant, and I really loved hearing that, because that's the opportunity we have as coaches, right? Is to have an impact. And you mentioned it before, that the best coach that you remember from your childhood was the one that did all of those things, that communicated well, that connected well, that built you up. Do you have one of those that you can think of, a coach that really left a mark on you because of that's how they operated?
Yeah, I remember I grew up without a dad, so there's all different ones. So there's a lot of them did things that now I'm a coach developer, I'm like, well, that wasn't great. But even little things like just pulling me aside instead of telling me off in front of everyone. He'd pull me aside and give me advice away from everyone, so he wouldn't embarrass me and things like that. I've had some great big name coaches. Like we had Kurt Sorensen under 18s, so he finished at Super League and came back and coached us because his boy was there. Connection wise, he might have struggled with a little bit, but his technical and tactical knowledge was really strong. Thinking back for even like there was a coach there in under 15s. He didn't know much technical and tactical, but like we said, he was super passionate and super connected with the team. He knew everything about you. He'd ask you, you might be into, how's your mum doing here? Or you might be into some different sport or Spider-Man or something. And it's so important that's more important than I felt being good at the block shape or being good at, I think connection for me is the biggest part of coaching, and not just connection, but I think what I'm learning now as I've got 40 coaches under me in the community level is being reliable is so important. So turning up on time, getting a plan. You don't need to do a big written sheet, but actually having a rough idea in the car what you're doing, because you'll see that kids know that you haven't planned, and they will eat you up and be the most naughty things if they think you're winging it. So that's why, again, rugby league's such a good training game. You just go straight into a game and then start thinking if you have to. But on the spot, I learned a lot from the coach actually in Coventry. So I've had some good coaches, but he was really good with his questioning. So Tom Sang, his name was, and he also worked with Mark Sloan. Mark Sloan was a teacher, so his question, they were probably above. They were really good with their questioning, getting you to solve things and stuff like that. So I try and base a lot of my questions, I've just tried to remember what they used to do. So they were really good as well.
Oh, yeah. If you've got time, just love to ask you one more question. You said about growing up without a dad. How important was footy for you to immerse yourself in that environment when that's what your upbringing was like?
Yeah, so for me, like I said, so I got into football. I don't know if I touched on it before, but I got into football from going to a little activation thing at the Garden City local shopping centre, and there was Alfie Langer, and there was like Steve Renoff was there, and they did something with the radio station. I remember going in front, put my hand up. I had no confidence, but I knew the answer. It was who's the king of rugby league, and some kids said it was Alfie, and so I said it was Wally Lewis.
Nice.
Mum was all surprised I actually spoke, and then I got a footy, and that's obviously where the footy I had. I took that everywhere with me, but I reckon not having that father figure there was tough, because my mother was very religious at the time, so she spent a lot of time in the church and things like that. So it was pretty much me and her, and I'd sit there quietly waiting for her all the time. But with that footy, I found that was like my little sidekick. So I'd go and I'd kick it in the park 24/7. I made most of my friends because I was the kid with the footy. So I started learning my interpersonal skills and talking a bit more, because kids, you're at the school, you've got the football, you've got the soccer ball, you're the boss, the big dog in charge. So from that as well, obviously, some neighbours took me to a Broncos game because they saw I was the kid of the Broncos footy, and that's how I sort of fell in love with the Broncos. So it's surreal. I've done a 360 and full circle moment. Now I'm actually one of the Broncos, you could say, even though I'm a staff member. But I think without football, I don't know how I would have got my confidence. I would have been a bit lonely. I wouldn't have made the friends I've made today, who probably steered me in the right direction. And also, I'm guessing, well, most people in sport, I don't know about yourself, but most people in sport we talk about at the coaching courses, you think back to who your friends are now, and a lot of them, my friends I've had since I moved to the Gold Coast, probably 13, in high school, they're all from my football team and under 13s. So they're my best mates. And I've got a career out of football. I've got some international stories. I've traveled the world. I didn't make it the pro level, but yeah, it's a sport that's definitely, without it, I would not have much of an exciting life, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
who knows? Yeah.
Love it.
Who knows? I might have been a doctor or something. Who knows?
Or the best plasterer in town.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that about 13-year-olds, because I was just thinking as you were saying that, I'm in a WhatsApp group with with about 4 or 5 of my mates, and yeah, we played cricket together. Like, we met year 7, we played under 13s cricket together, and one of them just recently, this is the impact it has on you. One of them recently's like, "Should we get a team together in, boys?"
Oh yeah.
and
I tried that last year. It was a bad idea. I played Masters.
Yeah.
A heap of boys, but I forgot that I was an older player. So they're all playing Masters. They're all 35, 36. I was 38, 39-ish. Played, just thought I wouldn't need to train that much. We played a touch for about 3 or 4 weeks leading into it. First 6 minutes, I did my calf. And I got called a pussy on the sideline from one of the boys, and I ran on off the back fence and I ripped my hamstring off my leg. So I've learnt really quickly. Yeah, if I'm ever going to do that again, I need a good year prep.
At least.
See me being
calf injury, old man injury, they tell me. So
it was a great injury because I just drank beers for the rest of the 4 days, and they all battled in the hot sun, and I just sort of sat there in the bar. So
and
wasn't
coached in inverted commas.
Oh, they wouldn't listen to me. No chance.
I love it. Yeah, well, you're a long time retired, so I get it, and we've been talking about it. I'm not sure it'll actually happen, but yeah, it is nice to remember those good old days anyway.
Oh, we have, so I didn't mention it, we have we've started a program at the Devils.
Yeah.
We call it Ask Be Devil Fit. So it's actually sponsored by QUT and also the Heart Foundation, and it's a program where we get blokes older than me with a BMI over a certain BMI, I can't remember which one it is, and it's to try and get men activated in doing some healthy choices and physical activity and stuff like that. I've actually got the last one tonight, but it's been a really good program where we work their confidence up. So inside we'll do 20 minutes, we'll talk about calorie counting, we'll talk about, we do step competitions. We go outside for the last half hour and we play walking tape. It's amazing how these blokes haven't, a lot of them don't have that many friends, or they haven't been out in a long time. And the stories we hear of, they get motivation to lose weight, but just most of them, their well-being, just been in that sport environment where they get to pass the ball and get together every Monday. It's been awesome. So we're trying to build on that and try and go to different clubs there and do that. But it's been a really good program. Some of the boys have lost about 10, 15 kilos as well, just purely change of stop. It's all the beer part where we talk about get off the VBs and get on the 3.5s, or just quit alcohol altogether, which never happens.
Yeah. No, the zeros.
Program. And it's sort of, I'm out playing again, touch footy, and I'm one of the better players. So plenty of confidence there.
Yeah, nice. Oh, mate, that is such a great idea, great concept. Walking football's become a bit of a thing as well. The very first guest on this podcast, Peter DiPrenzio, had played walking football for Australia. So that was pretty cool. Like World Cup and everything, like going to the UK and playing against.
That'd be very boring to watch.
Unbelievably
Actually, it'd be the
so.
same for me. I've tried to watch football, but
yeah, I'm not a massive football watcher either. But walking football, that might,
well, it gives us hope.
But just but I mean the concept again of like what you said, it brings people together, the connection and tricks like similar to what we said when we're talking about the youth football and the youth rugby. Like it brings people together, but it tricks them into getting fit because they're getting involved in games, and for those guys, man, what an impact! I love that. Who came up with that idea?
So it's a bloke called Lee Wharton and Neil, who's doing is doing our coach mentoring. They've stolen it from Scottish football. So it's huge over in Scotland. And they do it there where you pay to get into it. And then you end up playing a game with the pros that come down. Let's say it wouldn't be Messi, but someone like Messi comes down and kicks the footy around with you, and they do a lot of fundraising through it. So they sort of took the concept from that. But I think when pre-season's coming up for my coaches and using rugby league because too many coaches these days are doing those, suicides, those runs, shuttle runs back and forth, and because they see it on TV and they see they do it in the NRL. But just playing rugby league and then changing a rule where you have to go to the try line and do a burpee to enter. We're really going to push that this year with our pre-seasons for all our age groups. But the way I see it is it's like mashing the veggies and the Brussels sprouts in your mash and the potatoes. I try and tell the coaches that. So you don't know what's happening because of how fun it is. Yeah. And you'll do some Malcolms and everyone will be sad and give half efforts. If you play a game of football for half an hour where you have to run out to the try line, do a burpee every time you make a touch, they'll play for hours. So it's funny how a bit of game, a bit of fun can motivate you to go above and beyond.
Absolutely. And interestingly, and again, I'm going to have my para bias on, but I remember Jason Riles talking about it in the preseason last year, how most of the fitness was gameplay.
Yep.
And it's the fittest we've looked in years. Whereas
they want them to compete. So love to compete every tackle, compete every run, every push. And you can coach effort. So effort on effort as well by adjusting rules. Same, just like people say you can't coach effort, you definitely can. But there's ways. Some people are just a bit lazy, a bit like me now. They just won't engage.
Wow, mate, you've had a pretty good. You've been in a pretty good wicket for the last.
Very broken man.
You can get back to it in the pre-season in January or February, maybe. James, great chat. Thank you so much for coming on, and well done. First crack at this, you nailed it. Some great stories, some fantastic knowledge and wisdom for people, particularly the coaches and parents listening. So thank you so much, mate.
Thanks for having us on, mate. And I look forward to watching the rest of your podcast. Be good.
Cheers. What I love about conversations like this is that they remind us that leadership isn't about titles, it's about presence, patience, and the way you show up for the people around you. James has lived that through every chapter of his journey, taking risks, backing himself, and lifting others up with the 4 C's along the way. There's something in this story for every bloke who cares about being a better coach, a better parent, or a better teammate. It's the small habits, the daily interactions, and the moments of connection that shape who we become and who we influence. Take a moment to think about what stood out for you today and how it fits into your own life game plan. And if this episode sparks something, share it with a mate, a fellow coach, or someone in your club who'd get value from James's insights. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.